Next we'll move on to the plot analysis. I think I needn't tell you the story because you all have seen it. We'll just analyze these scenes and try to interpret the movie. So the movie opens on a beautiful countryside, uh, and we see a hunt for wild boars is in flow, and it is led by the aging Lord Hidetora Ichimonji, and we see that he's a master uh, in the craft of hunting. Um and he has conquered many of his neighbors, and now he is uh, aged. Okay, so this opening scene is significant, and we see that it is made up of beautifully framed shots, and it is filmed in the plains of Mount Aso. It is a volcano in Japan, and in each shot we also see that soldiers uh, are framed against the landscape, and the background score, that haunting violent music played in the background, that is also so engaging. And the scene sets the stage for the movie's imminent militarism. See, right from the beginning, hunting a wild boar, that is what we see at the beginning of the film. So that itself sets the theme that there is hunt involved, there is militarism involved, there is death involved. So all these are clues that Kurosawa is trying to convey through the very opening scene as well. And when you compare it with King Lear, in King Lear, we get very little staged battle. Of course, because it is a drama and this is a film, so it has the difference in medium itself. But here Kurosawa presents a heavy battle scene and heavy battle scenes in every instance in that film. So this is the first scene that we see, and it is not a battle scene, it is a hunting scene. And as already told, Ichimonji and a group of hunters, they are chasing a wild boar through those grasslands, and finally Ichimonji kills it. The scene ends quickly, and uh, we doesn't feel that there is something significant in it, but of course it implies a lot about the film. And as already told, it is a hint at the uh, animosity or the animality of humans, which is one of the most important themes of this film as well as in Lear, because people don't trust each other, people are hunting each other for, in the name of money, in the name of ambition, in the name of throne, etc. Uh, as the film progresses, we also come to know that Ichimonji also had a very similar past. He hunted people like he did the boar. He destroyed families, he destroyed many clans, he has usurped or he has colonized many areas, he has many captured many lands, etc. So this animalism is reinforced through that hunting scene by Kurosawa. And later we see that uh, it is also a hint at the imminent fate that is coming for this lead character Ichimonji, because during the prime time of his life he was the hunter, he hunted many families, many people, he captured many lands, etc. But towards the end of his life, his fate and the boar's fate, the wild boar's fate, are similar. He becomes the hunter becomes the hunted. So these are clues that Kurosawa tries to convey through the very first scenes as well. And then we see that he all of them are going to have a feast, they are going to eat. they are going to have a feast, and even um, um, when one of his sons asks him whether they will eat the beast, Ichimonji says that the boar's carcass was too tough and foul, just like me. And he asks his sons, "Would you eat me?" So that is again an indirect question to his sons. He is asking, "Will you look after me during my old age, or will you take care of me?" Kurosawa conveys again that Ichimonji himself compares him to that boar. Okay. So this is the significance of that opening scene. Maybe you might have questions about the importance of the opening scene of the film. So this is what you have to convey. Hope it's clear. If you want, after listening to these lectures, you can once again see that film or go through those specific scenes. So that will help you a lot to appreciate it, to understand it better. Film analysis is something that is very important. When you, after viewing a film, you have to think about it, you have to go through it. You can just like reading a book, you can view a film again and again, and you see that new meanings come up each time you go through that film, or each time you watch that film. Something that you skipped during your previous watch, that will come up during the second watch, and that's how meanings analyze, or meanings come up in film analysis. Okay. So it's better if you go through that opening scene once again after hearing this lecture. Okay. Now, after this hunting scene, Hidetora comes up with this, with his revelation of dividing the kingdom among his three sons. His three sons are Taro, Jiro, and Saburo. So he decides to, the patriarch Hidetora decides to give control of his kingdom to these three sons. And Taro is the eldest. He will receive the prestigious first castle, and he will become the leader of the Ichimonji clan, while Jiro and Saburo will be given the second and third castles. Jiro and Saburo should support Taro, and it is here that Hidetora illustrates this by using a bundle of arrows, and that is the legend that we spoke about, the legend of Mori Motonari. And he says that Hidetora, he will retain his title as Great Lord, and he will reside with his sons in rotation as he sees fit. Okay. So just as he declares this plan, Saburo, the third son, he criticizes the logic of Hidetora's plan, and he says that Hidetora achieved power through treachery, and he reminds his father about all that, like how he conquered all those lands and everything using his ambition and greed and treachery, etc., and how he can expect his sons to be loyal to him. So Hidetora mistakes the comments of Saburo as a threat, and his faithful courtier Tango, he also supports the argument of Saburo, and so Hidetora, in a fit of anger, he banishes them both. Saburo and Tango is banished. So what we have to understand is, from these initial scenes itself, the character revelations have already started. We have seen the pride of Hidetora, his hunting nature, then the weakness and the weakness of Taro, the aggression of Jiro, the honest nature of Saburo, and we also see that when the father falls asleep, when his elder siblings mocks the old man, it was the it was Saburo who cut some branches and plants them in the ground to shield his father from the sun. Okay, so we get hints about the characters of, I mean, the major characters right from these initial scenes itself. And here we also see that Hidetora's self absorption or his ego prevents him from seeing the genuine nature of Saburo, and the fake pandering of his other two children, uh, Taro and Jiro, that is mistook by Hidetora. So he disowns Saburo, he banishes him, and now we see that once the youngest one is out of the way, when Saburo is out of the way, the power games from the major characters ensue, and violence erupts across the land. So after Hidetora's abdication, Taro's wife, Lady Kaede, she comes to the scene. We see her for the first time, and she begins persuading Taro to take direct control of the Ichimonji clan, and she also engineers a rift between Taro and Hidetora. And Cade is presented as a vengeful, manipulative woman. And we come to know that her family was slaughtered by Hidetora uh, during his early years. And we see that matters come to a head when Hidetora kills one of Taro's guards who was threatening his fool Kaomi. And when Taro subsequently demands that Hidetora renounce his title of Great Lord, Hidetora storms out of the castle. And he then goes to Jiro's castle, and there he discovers, it is then that he discovers that Jiro is more interested in using Hidetora as a pawn in his own power play. And during this time, Hidetora runs to Jiro's wife, Lady Su. So, like Cade, her family was also murdered by Hidetora, but she had embraced Buddhism and now she has forgiven him. Hidetora now realizes that he has no solace in his, or both his sons, Taro and Jiro, are not providing any sort of respect or solace to him. So he travels to the third castle. And the third castle was actually destined for Saburo, but because Saburo was banished from that land, it was left abandoned. So he decides to stay over there, and then what happens is the soldiers of Taro and Jiro attacks Hidetora and his group. And we see a lot of violence on screen, like Hidetora's bodyguards, his retinue, they are slaughtered, the castle is set on fire, and Hidetora is left to commit a ritual suicide. However, to his dismay, Hidetora's sword has been broken and he cannot commit suicide. So instead of killing himself, Hidetora goes mad and escapes from the burning castle. Um and we see that as Taro and Jiro's forces storm the castle, Jiro's general Kurogane also assassinates Taro. So a lot of violence and bloodshed is depicted in that scene. So here we see that both Taro and Jiro, they both have their shares of malicious desires, um, because we see that both of them deny their father a place uh, in the first and the second castles. And after he is uh, thrown out from the third castle, Ichimonji himself begins to feel a great loneliness. And it is then that he compares himself to an animal and he says, only the birds and the beasts live in solitude. So we see that there is an experience similar to what King Lear feels. He begins to feel he begins to get the feeling of being nothing more than an animal. And We see that the repercussions of his actions are now on his head. See, whatever he has done during his early times, that is kicking back, or that is bouncing back against him. And in a way, it shows that all those atrocities that he has committed throughout his life, and even the kind of children that he had raised. So that devastation, especially the descent into madness of Ichimonji, that is literally mind blowing. And he here we see that Kurosawa is carrying the universal themes of self knowledge, avarice, pride, betrayal, cruelty, etc. And all these characters are not painted in black and white. Like, you don't have clear cut good characters and bad characters in this film. All of them are given motivations, and all of them have that victim side and the perpetrator side. See, even Saburo, like Shakespeare's Cordelia, has a flaw in a way that he tries to humiliate his father while giving his speech. Maybe he's a bit outspoken, but it is before the courtiers, before all those important people, that he's speaking so frankly to his father. So everybody has that tinge of goodness and badness in it. In these characters, everybody has their own motivations. Like, even if we look at the character of Lady Kaede, she is an epitome is she's presented as an epitome of evil, both physically as well as mentally. But again, when you come to know about what happened to her family because of Ichimonji, this is justifiable. Again, her deeds seem to be justifiable. She has that revenge in it. Okay, Lady Sue was also had a similar history. I mean, her family was also attacked and massacred by Ichimonji once ago, but she turned to religion as a solace. But this woman, Lady Kaede, she seems to take it in a much more passionate way, in a much more revengeful way, and she is there obsessed to take revenge against these people. So this is why you can have each and every character, especially each and every major character, has their own motivations about what they do in this film. So Hidetora's descent into madness, that becomes a long period in that movie, because we see that he spends wandering in the wilderness with his fool Kaomi and the servant Tango. And Tango is the Kurosawa equivalent of Kent. Mm? And we also should note that in King Lear, King Lear, during those episodes of madness, he is seen to speak in a very strange way. He speaks very strange and nonsensical speeches. But Ichimonji largely remains silent during his insanity. And at times it seems like he's almost dead. And this silence contributes to that effect. And we also see heavy makeup, wherein Ichimonji appears skeleton like. A terrific, or what to say, a very eerie look is imparted to his face. uh, like his eyes have a very frightening look, and that stare is important because especially in insanity, that fixed stare, that emotionless face, that all those, so, and that is very well depicted in the movie. um, and here, quite interestingly, we also see that a mirror is held up to Hiditora by his jester, by the fool Kwaomi. And he comments on the actions that Hiditora has done in the past and how they are coming back to him in this form. Uh, then, as the film progresses, we have already seen that Jiro's general Kurogane assassinates Taro, and Hiditora has gone mad, and he wander in the wilderness, and they take refuge in a peasant's home. And it is later that they realize that the peasant is a man named Surumaru, and Surumaru is the brother of Lady Sue. And Hiditora had ordered him to be blinded years ago. So this is in fact uh, a telling of karma, that what you give, you get it back. What you do, you get it back. Hiditora had hunted all these people throughout his life, and now he had been the hunter, and he is the hunted now. So this is you can have that theme of karma, like what you give, it returns, it comes back to you in every possible way. And then, other than that, we come across Jiro. After Taro's death, Jiro moves into the first castle as the Great Lord, and he begins to have an affair with Lady Kaede, the wife of the widow of Taro. And she quickly becomes the power behind his throne, and she demands that Jiro leaves his wife, Lady Sue, instead of her. And when Jiro offers to divorce his wife, Lady Sue, and marry her instead, she demands that Sue has to be killed. And Jiro is completely wheeled by the machinations of Lady Kaede, and he gives orders to Kurogane to kill So. But he publicly disobeys and warns Jiro not to trust this woman. And so, this is a very important thing that you have to note, especially the role of Lady Kaede and how she happens to persuade these characters, and how her machinations bring about even more tragedy and violence and chaos into that film. And Lady Kaede, even though she appears only a few times, but when she does, she fills the screen in astonishing bursts of blood and lust. And Kaede is the embodiment of revenge and feminine will. And she sets out to destroy an entire family of feudal rulers in 16th century Japan, and she does so with such single-mindedness that that even Lady Macbeth looks like an underachiever. And there is a scene in the film wherein Cade holds a knife to the throat of Jiro, and she slices him just enough to start a trickle of blood, and threatens even worse. Then abruptly, she does a turnabout, lowering the knife and licking Jiro's wound, and you see a hot-blooded seduction over there. And there is a historical part to it as well. See, women during the 16th century civil wars, they were mainly used as tools for political strategy, and many fathers got their daughters married because they wanted to dominate a part of the country, or they have to capture a land, or they have to make some political alliance with neighboring lands. For that, daughters were used, and these women were not recognized as people at all. So, in a way, Kurosawa is seeking the revenge of all these women through Lady Kaede. Okay, so in an interview, this is what he had stated. That she stands as a representative of all those women who were used as tools for political strategy during the 16th century Japan, feudal Japan. So this is what I earlier said, that all these characters have motivations. They cannot be branded as evil or good. Even what Lady Kaede does in a way that is justifiable. On from another point of view, we feel that she is an epitome of evil. She is an epitome of treachery, seduction, etc. All those negative traits. But at the same time, when looked from yet another point of view, from this historical perspective, we feel that Lady Kaede combines that revengeful motive that has been harboring in the minds of all these women who were used as tools of political strategy. So she's a very powerful character in the whole film. In fact, the single powerful woman in that character, even though she is represented in a negative light, you cannot compare her with Lady Sue, because Lady Sue is the exact opposite of this woman, Lady Kaede. She leads a very peaceful and religious sort of life. She likes to stay away from all the cunningness and treachery that her husband is up to. She doesn't seem to know about what is actually going on. She has left everything to the abode of Buddha. But Lady Kaede is very material, very earthy, we can say. Okay, and she's a power hungry vixen. She's presented as a power hungry vixen who creates many conflicts within the film. And as I said earlier, she's the nearly all the female presence in the film, because Sue appears only in one or two scenes. And even her appearance is suggestive. Despite her being fully covered in several layers of royal costume, there is an incredible amount of sensuality in her appearance. For example, you see that Kaede doesn't have eyebrows, and that gives her a very strange, inhuman look. And she also tells Jiro at one instance that she cares only for herself, and then she tries to seduce him. And when comparing her with King Lear, the character in King Lear, she is the equivalent of Edmund in King Lear. But again, Kurosawa seems to have drawn this inspiration from Lady Macbeth. Fine, because you see Lady Macbeth constantly persuading Macbeth to commit more and more bloody acts. In terms of characterizations, he seems to have a close equivalence to Lady Macbeth. But again, if you have to take the King Learian counterpart, it is Edmund. Okay. So you need to have a particular awareness of this special character, because in the previous exams we have seen that several questions related to the women representation in RAN was frequently asked, not as an essay but as short answer and paragraph. So it's good that after hearing this audio, you can please go through all those scenes in which Lady Kaede appears, and just note down something important. Maybe you can come up with your own interpretations about this character and how you feel about her presentation and everything. That's perfectly fine. You have to analyze this film in your own terms. So we see that Jiro assumes the throne, and Taro's widow, Lady Kaede, threatens to expose his murder of Taro if he doesn't let her stay in court and make her his wife. And meanwhile, in another scene, we come to know that Saburo learns of his father's whereabouts and he comes to rescue him. Saburo shows up with his soldiers, and Jiro meets them on the battlefield with his army. So there are a lot of battle scenes, and Jiro also allows Saburo to find their father and take him, but it is actually a trick uh, to lure Saburo onto his land and kill him. And immediately after finding Ichimonji, Saburo is killed. And Ichimonji also dies from grief shortly thereafter. And in the climax of the film, you can see that Jiro's army has been surrounded by that of Lord Ayabe, who is another warlord seeking to overthrow Jiro. And Jiro's right hand, Kurogane, he looks for Cade, uh, who confesses that she created all these situations in order to take revenge on Ichimonji for the murder of her family. And Kurogane cuts her head off as Jiro prepares to die at the hands of Ayabe's army. So this is again what actually happens in the plot, and hope you all have seen the film. So here towards the end of the film, what again we can see is that Jiro's uh, deception of his own brother Saburo. He sends a message to his brother telling him that he will hand over their father, even though he doesn't have any idea where Ichimonji is. And again, throughout the film, this theme of deception rules supreme, because you find that Ichimonji's sons deceive their father, the wife deceives husband, and these deception and misunderstandings lead to more bloodshed and even war. For example, towards the end of the film, when Jiro thinks that Saburo is declaring war against his kingdom, and he orders his troop to attack them as soon as they come. In fact, Saburo is simply going in search of his father, and he has no intention of starting a war with his brother. So this culture of violence and bloodshed, it is actually created by Ichimonji, and it has created a chaotic and suspicious kingdom in which every subject in the court is paranoid about their existence. They think that danger is lurking behind the corner, or somebody is going to be attacked, everything. And when you look at Ichimonji, the transformation that has happened to him, in the beginning of the film, we see that he is a very pride an egoistic man, but towards the end he is driven to madness by, in fact, his own guilt. And the violent, I mean, the insanity is caused not only because of the violence that he has always practiced, But his dismissal of his son, Saburo, he realizes he has that guilty conscience that he failed to understand the truth, or the who among them is loyal. He was so credulous. He believed the fake words of his other two sons, and he disbelieved Saburo. So all this is creating a sort of guilty conscience within Ichimonji. And when Saburo, we also see that when Saburo finds him in the plains and identifies him, Ichimonji runs away. And he even asks to be poisoned because he feels how horribly he treated his youngest son. And you see that in this state of madness and remorse, Ichimonji is reduced to a weeping pile, uh, a very pathetic character. And there is a dramatic turn of events because soon after, Saburo and his father rejoin and they decide to go back to the third castle, or to wherever Saburo is residing, and to live a happy life together. Saburo is shot from his horse. And 1 minute, you see the father son bonding, their happiness and everything. But on the very next moment, you see Ichimonji is crouching over the dead son's body. So the devastating is the scene is really devastating because it stages a father losing his son. Not only that, it has taken, it shows that it has taken Ichimonji so long to realize that the son he imagined to be disloyal was in fact his uh, greatest asset. Okay. And then again, on another plane, we see that the ending, the film's ending, has a very striking image of the most vulnerable victim of the violence, that is Surumaru. He waits for his sister to return, and he's a blind person, and he doesn't have an idea that she was killed by an assassin. And we see that the blind man stands on an edge before dropping the image of the Buddha that she gave him. And the camera settles on a close up of the Buddha image, before zooming out to show just how alone and isolated in the wilderness Surumaru is. So, in the midst of all the destruction that has taken place, stands a blind man, cut off from his family, from a sense of security, and the only thing he can hold on was that image of God, an image that he cannot see, but maybe in his inner eye, he has that assurance that God will take care of him. So the you can have a very ambivalent, or what to say, a, a point of different interpretations can be possible. On one plane, you can see that the fallen image of Buddha, that image, it shows that religiosity, or those very positive feelings that we attach, that moral values and everything, that bonding and all those core values, all those positive connotations that you often associate with God, that has failed in such a war-stricken, such a treacherous world. God, as Nietzsche says, God is dead. In one way that is possible, such an interpretation is possible, but on another plane, that zooming out of on the image of Buddha, it can again lead us to think on a note of hope. Okay, because that is the only what to say, that's the only thing that you can hold on. God. All the other things are uncertain. All the other things that happen around are just violence and all those devastating aspects. The only thing is God, destiny, fate, and everything. All in such a way, also you can interpret it. Anyway, this is some possible interpretations. Anyway, you can also come up with your own uh, interpretations of the film. So again, we see that a stable life of Hidetora Ichimonji, it is transformed from within by the corrosion of the family and of the state, and the corrosion has brought on by the failure of the patriarch to listen and love well enough. So here in Ran, Kurosawa graphically exteriorizes this insanity by sending Lord Hidetora into the wilderness. Okay, and uh, and in fact, this insanity is a very prominent theme in Ran as well, because families are torn apart by greed, kingdoms are awash in the river of blood, armies are slaughtered over a royal family's jealousy, betrayal, then and bloodshed, reversal of fortune, and everything. There is murderous conquest, and in the end, you find a virtual mountain of corpses like Hiditora, Taro, Jiro, Sue, everybody, and the only person that seems to be alive is Surumaru. Okay, and actually Hiditora must confront his responsibility for this epic of destruction, because he has started all this, all his past actions, maybe that is responsible for the present. Okay. And quite interestingly, the court jester Kaomi, he many times he strikes the chord of the, I mean, the theme of the whole film. For example, he's seen saying, "Man is born crying, and when he has cried enough, he dies." And this is an observation by Kaomi, the fool, and you find a lot of nihilism running throughout the film, and even Hiditora, he in the end he says, "I am lost," and this is the human condition. So all these lines seem to assert that human frailty. So you have all these themes interwoven into the fabric of the film, like betrayal, madness, power, violence, then vision, then the wild boar, the three arrows. All these are symbols as well. So the film is in total uh, a technological advancement. At the same time, it is an allegory of the human situation, how greed and power ruins a man's life, and how it can, the power of karma, like how it can come back to you in many ways, how this thing called karma has is like a double edged sword. If you are pointing one edge to another, some others, the other edge is turned against you. And so all these are the possible way of reading this film. Now this is just a very bleak, very what to say, a very shallow interpretation. You can have it, you can add on your own points along with this as well. So take this just as a guide in understanding the film better. Along with this audio, I will also be giving you a note that I have prepared uh, regarding this analysis of the film. You can check that also. Plus, I am telling you again, please come up with your own interpretations, your own suggestions, findings, etc. That will give you a better experience of analyzing and understanding this epic film. So, thank you, dears. Thank you.